Hi, I'm Kim Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of Bananas. This is the third in a four-part series for the Oakland Early Learning Symposium. We are devoting this year's symposium topics to be all about how to cope during COVID-19. We also want to create a space for you to ask questions and help each other come up with creative solutions. We learn best by learning with and from each other. We are also hosting ways to stay connected between symposium meetings, including informal Zoom gatherings in the evenings called Let's Talk Early Learning. We have had three wonderful facilitators, Annette Wright, Nini Humphrey, and Jaquita Wallace, who have made these events fun and informative. The next one is March 17th at 7 p.m. So mark your calendars and there will be a link to the meeting in the follow-up email to you after the meeting today. And we also have a Google group for symposium participants. Many of you may have joined. We post announcements about upcoming events on Google Groups and encourage others to share on that platform. Now for some housekeeping from Carla Kina, who is co-facilitating with me here today, and she's the Director of Programs at First 5 Alameda. Carla?
Thank you, Kim. Hello and welcome everyone. We will have specific times for questions for speakers. If you have a question during the Q&A period, please use the raise hand feature by clicking on the participants button and clicking raise hand on the pop-up window. You can ask questions, but some may need follow-up. Note that we are going to be recording all questions in the chat and in our conversations, and be putting together a comprehensive question and answer document that will be sent out after the meetings. The meeting is being recorded and will be shared, as will the Google slide presentation. So please keep that in mind as you participate. Also, we want to capture some of the event through screenshots. So if you do not want to be photographed, please keep your video off. We will not be taking screenshots in the breakout rooms. And just in general, you do not need your video on now. You may turn them on during the small breakout sessions happening later in this event. Finally, a reminder on Zoom etiquette. Keep yourselves muted when you can and save your questions for the Q&A portion of the agenda. You can do this by clicking the microphone icon on your toolbar. We know many of you joining us today will be receiving professional development credits, and those certificates will be mailed out to you right after today's event. And just before we get started, the Oakland Starting Smart and Strong team wants to thank Rainin Foundation and Packard Foundation for supporting this symposium. And there are many organizations throughout Oakland that participated in making this event happen, listed here. And now, before we get started, I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Dr. LaWanda Wesley, who will help us to honor our native lands before the meeting begins. LaWanda.
Yes, thank you, Carla. I appreciate that handoff. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. It's Saturday. You could have been anywhere with us, but you decided to be here during this third installation of the Early Learning Symposium. One of the things we always want to make sure we do is give acknowledgement to those shoulders that we stand on, ancestors that we stand on. So briefly, I'll read this quote that says, and it's from Bell Hooks, that talks about teaching to transgress. And it briefly says, honor the land. When we talk about that which will sustain and nurture our spiritual growth as people, we must once again talk about the importance of community. For one of the most vital ways that we sustain ourselves in building is by doing it through communities, through resistance, places where we know we are not alone. And we know in this early education space, we do this work together. We're coming from different mixed delivery systems, but together we're going to do this. We also want to make sure you remember what land that you reside on. I'm coming from Sacramento, California, and I sit on the Nissan land, which is near the Sacramento River. There's also a beautiful artist we'll drop in the chat as you may be looking for the land that you reside on. And feel free to put that into the chat when you find your land. But there's also a beautiful Indigenous artist by the name of Ray Zaragoza, and it's a beautiful song that she has written about taking back our identities and reclaiming ourselves. So feel free to visit her work and learn more about what she does around BIPOC and Indigenous efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lawanda. If you've been with us before, you know we often start our meetings with a meditation or a centering practice. Today, we thought we would need some inspiration. So we're going to view the recitation of a poem called The Miracle of the Mourning by the amazing and incredibly talented Amanda Gorman. You may remember Amanda. She is the National Poet Laureate, Youth Poet Laureate, and she recently recited a poem at the inauguration of President Biden. Please go ahead and play the video, Jackie.
Hi, I'm Amanda Gorman, and this is my poem, The Miracle of Mourning. I thought I'd awaken to a world in mourning, heavy clouds crowding, a society storming, but there's something different on this golden morning, something magical in the sunlight, wide and warming. I see a dad with a stroller taking a jog across the street. A bright-eyed girl chases her dog, a grandma on a porch, fingers her rosaries. She grins as her young neighbor brings her groceries while we might feel small, separate, and all alone. Our people have never been more closely tethered because the question isn't if we can weather this unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. So on this meaningful morn, we mourn and we mend like lights we can't be broken. Even when we bend as one, we will defeat both despair and disease. We stand with healthcare heroes and all employees, with families, libraries, waiters, schools, artists, businesses, restaurants, and hospitals hit hardest. We ignite, not in the light, but in lack thereof. For it is in loss that we truly learn to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity. In suffering, we must find solidarity, for it's our grief that gives us our gratitude, shows us how to find hope if we ever shall lose it. So ensure that this ache wasn't endured in vain. Do not ignore the pain. Give it purpose, use it, read children's books, dance alone to DJ music. Know that this distance will make our hearts grow fonder. From a wave of woes, our world will emerge stronger. We'll observe how the burdens braved by humankind are also the moments that make us humans kind. Let each dawn find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the lights before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing, in testing times, we became the best of beings.
Thank you for that. I just love her. I'm sure you guys just love her as well. Definitely the inspiration we needed right now on this wonderful, beautiful morning. And now we're going to have our first door prize and announcement of the day. So Priya Jagannatham, who is the director of Oakland Starting Smart and Strong, will tell us what the prizes are and who has won them. Good luck.
Thank you, Kim. As you can see on the slide, we have some exciting raffle prizes backed by popular demand. We have an early learning symposium water bottle and journal. We introduced these back in 2019 when we had our symposium in person, and they were so popular that we decided to purchase them again and raffle them off. We will raffle off 5 right now, so I will call 5 lucky winners. And please check your email after the symposium, and we will figure out a way to get these prizes to you. So without further ado, our 5 winners are Dorothea Harrell, Hala Hampton, Alana Gill, Melinda Jones, and Tony Crockett. So congratulations. We'll reach out to you and figure out a way to get these to you. And don't worry if you didn't win, we're going to have some raffle prizes at the end, and we'll draw 5 more lucky winners. So with that, I'll turn it back to Carla, or over to Carla.
Thank you, Priya, and congrats again to those winners. To start off today, we wanted you to hear from staff at organizations working in the communities you serve and find out from them the resources they have available for families who are in need. We know that the families you work with often come to you when they are struggling. You are a trusted ally, a friend, and someone they know will keep their situation confidential. This can be a heavy burden, we know that. We know it's been a long year with multiple difficult challenges, and seeing families struggle is one of the hardest, especially as we are all struggling ourselves. That is why we gather together some of the folks on the ground who can help carry that burden for you and the families you work with. We are going to start off by hearing from Doris Callejas, the COVID Essential Supplies Manager, and Rachel Hammond, Programs Intern, both from First 5 Alameda County. So please, Doris and Rachel, go ahead and address the issues that we saw in our poll and others that you are supporting in our community. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. This is Doris Callejas, and I am the Essential Supplies Manager at First 5. Now we're going to hear from Rachel, and then I'll continue after her part.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Hammond, and yes, I work on the programs team supporting our essential supply efforts. Can we go to the next slide, please? And then one more. Yep. So the first resource we would like to share are our essential supply distribution hubs. We've partnered with supplybank.org and Alameda County Social Services Agency to provide essential supplies to 10 hubs across the county. Our hubs, which are listed on the left side of the slide, and some of whom are represented here today, receive supplies from us each month that they distribute to families in the community. The sites are located across the entire county in Oakland, Fremont, Hayward, Pleasanton, Union City, and Cherryland. We provide each site with an array of supplies each month. You can find a list of some of the supplies on the right-hand side of the slide. Supplies and availability varies by month, but each site does receive the same supplies each month, and they always receive diapers, wipes, and masks. Next slide, please. We encourage you all to go to the link provided in the orange box at the bottom of this slide for more specific information about each site, such as any eligibility requirements they may have and how often they hold distributions. Some sites serve families on a first come, first served basis, while others ask that you set up an intake appointment. We have listed an initial point of contact for each hub on this slide. And again, I encourage you to navigate to the link in the orange box at the bottom of the slide. The information at that link is available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Doris to tell you about one of our other resources we would like to share. And next slide, please.
The other resource or program we have at First 5 is Help Me Grow, and Help Me Grow is a system that collaborates with agencies, families, and providers through the county to help ensure children's ages birth to 5 reach their optimal development. Some of the services that the program offers is a toll-free number line for families to receive confidential support and resources for everyday concerns. The care coordinators help families access local resources. The family navigators explain services such as Medi-Cal and help families enroll into Medi-Cal. The eligibility requirements are families with children birth to 5 years old. The care coordinators were an essential part during shelter in place to support families about talking to their kids about COVID-19, how to relieve stress, finding resources in multiple languages, at-home learning activities, children with special needs and how to support them at home when there's not a lot of support, healthcare, childcare, and financial support, how to access food and transportation information for immigrant families. They did an amazing job in connecting families to all those resources and making sure they're with the families every step of the way so that they can access those services. Next slide, please. Here's the contact information for Help Me Grow. Providers who wish to refer families can email Help Me Grow. Families can also call the toll-free numbers. And if a family wish to be contacted, they can fill out a contact form, find resources. They have a website where providers, families, and anybody can access resources that are available in the community. Help Me Grow also has digital materials. So if you are a provider and you wish to spread the word about the program, you can just go on that link and resources will be available. Help Me Grow also has a listserv, and the listserv is updated every 2 weeks. So anybody that signs up for that listserv will get updated information about resources for families happening, events and trainings. So I will encourage you at the end of this presentation or at the end of this training to go into that website and sign up, and you will get that listserv in Spanish and English. And that is all the information that we have for first 5. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rachel and Doris. That was very informative. If I could just ask everyone to remember to hold your questions for the end of the session, or if you have them now, put them in the chat. Now we will hear from Kim San Gabriel, who is the Family Support Program Coordinator at Family Pass. Kim?
There we go. You'd think I had just done this for the first time. Good morning, everybody. So glad to be here with you and so glad that you are here with us on this Saturday morning. If you could go ahead and put on the Family Pass. Perfect. Thank you. So as was announced, I am Kim from Family Pass Parenting Stress Helpline, and that's a line that's available for all caregivers in Alameda County, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can call anytime. Go ahead and do the next slide. So we currently are able to offer services in Spanish, in Cantonese, and in English, of course. We just hired a Cantonese speaking person who started just this week or last week. So she's kind of in training, but soon she will be on the line 3 days a week in the mornings. And so you're welcome to have your parents call that speak Cantonese. And we will be able to provide some services now on the line. And in Spanish, we have a few people that speak Spanish in the evenings and throughout the day. And even if you have a parent call or you yourself call at a time that one of these two people isn't on, we do have access to our language line that's provided by Alameda County. And so that language line can interpret in many, many languages. So, and it only takes a couple minutes to get someone on the line. So please feel free to give out our 800 number. It's 800-829-3777 to parents and who are in need of some support. And like I said, they can call 24 hours a day. Next slide, please. And so who can call the helpline? Pretty much anybody who's caring for children in Alameda County, moms, dads, grandparents, other relative caregivers, foster parents, childcare providers, social workers, and other professionals. We get calls all the time from folks needing resources for parents and caregivers that they're working with. We get a lot of calls from grandparents and relative caregivers who are caring for their relative children because the parents aren't able to care for them at that time. And so we welcome these folks to call us and do our best to provide as much assistance as we can. And let's see, go ahead and go on to the next slide. So how does calling the helpline actually help somebody? So first of all, we provide confidential place for caregivers to call with concerns 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And callers can remain anonymous unless they're signing up for one of our services. So they don't have to say who they are, they're welcome to, but they don't have to identify. The only thing we ever ask people when they're not signing up for services is, a zip code and a city that they're calling from, just for, our funders. One of the ways that we help callers, parents, and caregivers is by calling the helpline, we help build parental resilience by addressing their emotional needs. So right now, in particular, parents are having to do so much all at the same time. And I think like many parents, or like myself for sure as a parent, and I think most parents, we tend to put our own personal needs to the side because there's so many other things in front of us that need to be addressed. So helping our kids with, you know, their basic needs, helping kids these days online with their schooling. Maybe our partner is home also working or maybe not working, and we're trying to do a job ourselves, or you know, we're stressed about not having a job and worried about how I'm going to pay the rent, how I'm going to provide food. And so as caregivers, we get really stressed around those things, and calling the line is a way to deal with that stress and get some kind of self-care, because if I take care of myself as a parent, I'm better able to take care of all those things that need addressing, whether it's my child when they're having a meltdown, you know, the fact that something's going wrong with the Zoom classroom, potentially, you know, my partner, if I have a partner living in the home, you know, a disagreement I have with them. If I'm in a better space and able to address what I need, then I'm better able to be there for other people and to think more clearly and solve problems more easily, because then I can stay attached to the thinking part of my brain. So, calling the line is a way to have someone to talk to about whatever's going on. And it can be a 5-minute call where I just need the number to the local food bank, or I just need a resource for mentoring or for whatever. But it can also be a much lengthier call where you really need someone to listen and provide uh, some guidance if necessary. But oftentimes, parents don't necessarily need advice and guidance. They really just need someone to validate that what they're going through is extremely difficult, and that everybody is going through something that is unprecedented right now. So, their child, themselves, the people they live with, everybody is reacting to this current situation. So just having someone to talk to that isn't a family member, isn't a friend, who doesn't have any skin in the game, so to speak, can be a really helpful way to deal with stress. And like I said, we will provide guidance on child development and parenting tools if the caregiver wants that help. And you know, not everybody does. Sometimes people just want time to vent, and oftentimes we find it's most helpful to provide some grounding tools to the parent or the caregiver, so the caller. So helping the caller know what they can do in a moment when they feel really stressed and they're about to lash out and they're about to yell, or they feel like overwhelmed and they can't think clearly. And so there's some really simple things that one can do. And that's the kind of thing that we're going to share with parents over the phone that they can then take with them into that next situation when they're not on the phone. And we can stay in contact with caregivers through weekly calls. So if a caregiver parent has an issue that requires a little more, you know, thought and attention, as do most things, rarely is an issue dealt with in one call, especially these days. And so we can offer to do callbacks, is what we call it, to a caregiver parent and say, hey, how about if I follow up with you next week to see how things are going? Were you able to reach those resources I gave you? How did that grounding technique that I suggested and we walked through in our call work? Do you need more? What else is going on with your situation that we could address in another call? A lot of our callers have many, many things that they're dealing with simultaneously, and every single one of those things is of primary importance. So
Thank
food
you.
insecurity, is that my 5?
Yeah, yeah. Wrap up in a few. Thank you.
Thanks. So, you know, food insecurity, housing worries, worries about their child's well-being, etc. And so ideally, if we do multiple calls and we can kind of address one of those things each time and keep following up with somebody, and it gives someone, a caller, kind of a regular contact with one person that they can get to know a little bit better. And we do provide concrete resources to community organizations and referrals to Family Paths in-house services, which I'll go into in just a second. And all of our calls are answered by trained professional staff counselors and volunteer counselors. Next slide, please.
If you can do this in 30 seconds, Kim, we're really at time. Thank you.
Got it. Thanks. Okay, so we offer therapy services, parent education classes, if you want to go on to the next slide, and group services. So therapy services cover children from ages 5 all the way up to 20, and adults who are caregivers. We provide services through Medi-Cal, in some cases, victims of crime, sliding scale, and CalWorks. And then our group services are for women who have experienced trauma, and that's a group that's coming up this month, coming month, and a group for teens from 15 to 18, which is also coming up this month. And we do offer yoga, but right now it's only being offered in the Oakland Head Start. So all you do is call the helpline to get referred to any one of those services, and we will walk you through that process. And I think my 40 minutes is probably up.
To two of my colleagues, Tina Fleeton and Martina Thomas. They are our care family resource navigators. So next slide. We're going to talk with you a little bit about CARE, and that is our program that supports families that are experiencing homelessness. And we do that through an enhanced support with our families. So to provide them financial support so they can access childcare. We found that's the major need that they have. So they can seek employment or keep their employment. And we try to match them up with traditional subsidies like Head Start, CalWorks, or alternative payments. And if those are not available, we use a temporary emergency childcare subsidy that's been generously funded by Alameda County Supervisors Wilma Chan and Keith Carson. We also collaborate with Family Front Door, which is Oakland's partner for the Alameda County Coordinated Entry System. And we also work with other housing assistance organizations. Just as you've heard from other organizations, we all had to pivot and provide concrete supports, such as cash grants so they can buy food, help with utilities, clothing, personal care, hygiene items. We enroll them in our diaper program. And on some occasion, because they are homeless, we are providing hotel vouchers. And if there are services that the family needs that we can't provide, we provide warm referrals to other social service agencies. And most importantly, our care navigators provide a friendly and supportive voice during a very challenging chapter in their lives. So what we wanted to do is to give you a glimpse of 3 families, if we have enough time. And so I'm gonna watch our time, and I know we're a little bit behind, so we'll just kind of move it along. So I'd like to introduce you both to, we can go to the next slide or take the slide down actually, and want to introduce you to both Tina and Martina. So, and I guess the others we can go off camera so that Martina and Tina can be spotlighted as we have our conversation. So if the other speakers can go off camera, that'd be great. Thank you so much. So hi, Martina. Sorry, she's one of the ones that kicked off the call. So welcome back. I wanted to introduce you to Martina. She is our newest navigator with the CARE program. And we always chat, fairly often at Bananas about what's going on with our families. And she recently shared a story with me about Melissa. So Melissa, Martina, can you tell me a little bit about Melissa? Why don't you introduce her to the audience?
Hi, everyone. So Melissa is a mom of 3 kids, ages 11, 2, and 7 months. She's one of our Spanish-speaking. She's from Houston, where she fled a domestic violence situation. She's right now staying with various members of a local church who's letting her stay with them for 2 to 3 weeks at a time.
Well, how did she come to learn about Bananas, and what challenges was she encountering?
So she learned about Bananas from a local church member who about 2 weeks ago, who have gotten service from us a long time ago. During COVID, she had a hard time finding housing and a job, and she needs childcare enabled for her to get a job. Her 2-year-old child has special needs, which is a speech challenge and autism.
So what kind of help did you give Melissa?
So right now she's working with our Spanish speaking referral counselor to identify a care provider. She does not have permanent housing, so we secured a shelter for her through Family Front Door, which is Oakland's coordinated entry program. She has emergency childcare subsidy, and once she finds a provider, she will have the funds to pay her provider. We also provided her with support cash grant from Bananas Aid for food and necessities, and we added her to our diaper distribution program.
Well, that's great. Well, what's going on with Melissa now? I know you talk to her fairly often. What's going on with Melissa?
So right now, Melissa is looking for a provider for all three of her children, and one of the children has special needs. She is in an intake process with Family Front Door to get in the Alameda or San Leandro shelter right now.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, obviously, we want all of our families to be into permanent housing, but right now she's in a shelter temporarily, and our goal is to help them get childcare so they can also get a job and then have some sustainability. And we want them off the street, obviously. So thanks for sharing about Melissa. So I also want to introduce you to Tina. Tina has been with the CARE program as a navigator from its very beginning. And it was actually Tina's care of families and sharing their stories that inspired the Hellman Foundation to provide significant support for this program. So Tina talked to me recently about one of our families, Aisha. Can you tell us about Aisha?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Aisha is a mother of two children, an 11-year-old and an 18-year-old. She was living in a motel, and she was referred to Bananas Care Program by the Lincoln Mandela Family Resource Center for help with child care. She works in San Francisco, and she has an early shift where she has to be at work at 7 a.m. And she's had difficulty finding a provider that opens as early as 6 a.m.
So how were you able to help her?
Well, first of all, we were able to give her referrals to providers that opened as early as 6 a.m. However, there weren't that many because of them having to change, their hours. Some of the providers weren't available that early. So we were able to enroll her mom as a family friend and neighbor provider and allow a subsidy to her through our CAP program so that she would be able to continue working. We've also provided her with a Bananas Aid cash grant for food and toiletries. And we also provided her with a holiday program where she received proceeds from the program. And she also received meals from the Nyam Bai Cambodian restaurant. They offered donations of dinners to a lot of our clients. So she was able to receive some assistance with free dinners.
Okay, and I think you told me she also received some housing assistance too.
Sure. She actually received assistance through the Interfaith Council of Alameda County. They have a safe car program that provides parking security for families who are unhoused or, temporarily living in their cars. And one of the parking lots had 2 tiny homes attached, and she was offered one of the emergency tiny homes temporarily for 90 days. So since she was allowed that opportunity, she left the motel and, took that opportunity to stay in the tiny home for 90 days.
So how is Aisha doing now?
Well, I just talked to Aisha, and she's concerned because her 90 days is almost up. And she is concerned about living in a shelter because she has an 18-year-old who would have to apply for assistance on her own. She doesn't want to break up her family unit. So she's really concerned about having to go to a shelter. And in following up with services for her, we're going to continue to provide assistance to her. We will offer her a hotel voucher if need be. So it's imperative that we continue, following up with her. And if there's any providers out there that are available to assist her as early as 6 a.m., we would be more than happy to hear from you. And if you are available, you can reach me at tina@bananasbunch.org, and I would mostly appreciate it. So we're going to continue to provide her with more child care referrals, to see if we can find a provider for her. She's still looking for providers because she really wants her son to be in licensed care. So it is with our intent that we will continue to provide services to her to provide a safety net to her and her family.
Yeah, and I think it's key to point out one of her hesitancies about the shelter is because with her daughter as 18 years old, she's considered an adult. So they won't let her, I think what you told me, they won't let her be in the shelter together, that she would have to go in as an individual.
Yes, that is correct. Her daughter, since she's 18 years old, she would have to apply for a shelter herself. And that concerns Aisha, as it would any mom that has an 18-year-old, because we know that 18 is just a number and not all children are, grown at 18. So we really want to help her and understand her dilemma.
Thank you. Thank you. And then Martina, again, let's talk with Martina one more time. She recently had a new family come to her. Can you tell us a little bit about Samantha? Martina, you there? You have to come off mute.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I couldn't unmute.
Okay.
So
Samantha
is a mom of a 7-year-old and 1-year-old, and we have got to know each other very well. She literally calls me every day. We're like friends. She was referred to me by a Bananas colleague because she learned she was living in her car.
So what are some of the kind of, living in your car is not what we all want to do. Tell me some of the challenges that Samantha has faced or is facing.
Well, she's living in her car with her children. When we met her, we found out her eligibility for CalWORK Stage 1 has lapsed, and she had a predatory loan with the cash loan vendor.
So what kind of help were you able to provide her?
She received Banana Aid cash grant that allowed her to pay off her loan, get gas and food. She was able to get shoes from our donation that we received, and we was able to enroll her in our diaper distribution program.
So how's Samantha doing now? What's going on with her?
She was able to get a Section 8 housing in Redwood City. While she was waiting for her voucher, we was able to put her in a hotel for 6 days. I helped her with an enrollment application for 4Cs, and we did a warm handoff to them. She'll be enrolled in their subsidy program.
Okay. So even though she's no longer living in Alameda County, we do talk with people around the Bay, and wherever they are able to find housing, we try to bridge support. We give warm handoffs to other organizations. 4Cs of San Mateo is like a Bananas or like a Hively or 4Cs of Alameda, but just located in San Mateo County. So she'll be able to get her support for childcare, and looks like she's going to get housing, permanent housing. So that's a great success story. I want to thank you guys for sharing some stories. We just wanted to share with you just really the multitude of challenges that many of our families are encountering these days. Sometimes we're able to find housing for them. We're not a housing organization, but we do work with housing organizations trying to get people off the street or into more safe housing. Our primary goal is to match them with childcare because most of them are working full-time. And as you know, in Alameda County, not all jobs equal a living wage. So it's really important for us to get childcare for them, because once they know their children are safe, cared for, in a thriving environment, that's one less burden they have to think about, and they're able to keep their employment or go and get a job and hopefully be able to better sustain themselves. So that's a peek into the Bananas Care program. And we are happy to take any questions now. If you have questions, we can answer. We'll try to answer them. So is it okay to open up for questions? Do we have time or do we need to move on?
Yes, we have time, and there were a few questions in the chat. One was just a question about, if this example is I'm not quite sure what this question is asking. It says, is this example for bananas or part of the CARE program? So maybe just explaining.
Sure.
That.
So the CARE program is a program of bananas. We recognized, working in partnership with Parent Voices Oakland, it became apparent that many of our families with full-time jobs were having real challenges with housing. And so Parent Voices was a major and an amazing advocate for these families, and was able to secure funding from Alameda County to provide emergency childcare vouchers. And so that's how the program started. And Tina was our first family navigator, because in addition to housing, we just needed to have a way to give just a little bit more help, have one person that's dedicated to them and can help them navigate all the different social services throughout Alameda County. So that's how that came about. And we've been able to get additional funding, and we just try to address whatever need the family has that's within our purview. And then for things that we can't do directly, we have these two navigators have created some wonderful partnerships with other organizations, so that we can just wrap them in services until they're able to get housed, and also make sure their children are in great environments while they're growing and learning. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Kim. Yes, another question is, do undocumented families qualify for services at Bananas?
Yes, we do not. Many of our families are undocumented, so yes, that is not an issue.
Okay, and kind of related to this, in order to participate in the CARE program, do parents need to have a social security number?
No. You want to
No.
answer that, Tina?
Sure. No, they do not have to have a social security number. We don't even ask the parents for a social security number.
Thank you. Another question. There's lots of questions for you folks, so appreciate it. Are there any childcare providers for parents that work evening or overnight shifts?
So that is, we have, we are in a mixed delivery system, and there's a lot of care that's available Monday through Friday, during traditional, I'll call them traditional working hours. And as Tina's story highlighted, if you work outside of those boundaries, it's harder to find a provider. And COVID just made it even more difficult. So oftentimes we engage family, friend, neighbor caregivers, which are a really important part of the early care and education ecosystem, because those wonderful providers provide care on Saturday and Sunday and evening hours and overnight hours. And this was pre-COVID as well. So family, friend, and neighbors are an important part of the early care fabric in terms of caring for our youngest learners. So oftentimes when someone works where they have a job where their hours are either very flexible and they get their schedule changes often, or if they work weekends, or maybe they work the swing shift, or they work an overnight shift, more traditional providers are not available to them. We do have a small number of family childcare providers that may, have that kind of flexibility, but traditionally that kind of care falls with family, friends, and neighbors. And they can participate in and get paid through the subsidy program. So it could be a mom, it could be a grandma, an auntie, the neighbor next door, all those folks are able to get reimbursed for their time caring for our littles.
Thank you. Another question, there's a few other questions about the CARE program. Is it for all Alameda County residents or Oakland only? And also can participants be in other programs such as Head Start?
Absolutely. So it is an Alameda-wide program. It started off serving what we call Northern Alameda County, which is where Oakland is located. We started serving some families from Southern Alameda County, San Leandro, Hayward, Fremont. We can serve, it's open to anyone in Alameda County. It's not an infinite resource. We don't have, it's not an infinite resource. So we serve as many people as we can. And if for some reason the child care subsidy component of it is not available, we still provide support. They still have the support of our two family navigators. We still will, enroll them in our diaper program if there's capacity. We still will provide them Bananas Aid, which is a fund that we created with actually fundraising. And again, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes we have more money and less money, but we do whatever we can. It is open to anyone in Alameda County.
Thank you, Kim and Tina and Martina. I believe there are a few other questions, but I think for the sake of time, we will give them to you and we will answer them via a document that we send out to all participants. I think we're going to transition and just really want to first appreciate Martina and Tina and Kim for taking the time, for sharing the amazing and beautiful work that you're doing for our communities. And, we really appreciate you doing this and taking time to explain to folks how we can link participants to your program. So appreciations to you. Thank you. And I will turn it over to Carla for introducing how we're going to move forward.
Thank you, Priya, and thank you again, Bananas, Kim, Martina, Tina, Martina. That was wonderful. And again, thanks to all of you for your patience and flexibility. This has been an amazing day, and we're going to keep it rolling. Instead of going to the breakout rooms, we're going to stay together. And what you're going to hear is a scenario of a fictional family. And after hearing all of the amazing resources we have here in Alameda County, we're going to work together through the chat to find out how we might support the family after you've heard the scenario. So Paige is going to read the scenario and then use the chat function to put in how you might help this family. Paige?
Thank you. Jackie, do you mind advancing a couple of slides? We have the scenario somewhere, actually. You know what?
I think you might have to refresh.
Yeah, sorry, Jackie. She's going to share her screen again in a moment. So I just want to recognize that we had today a bunch of wonderful facilitators who were going to take us through some breakout rooms. And unfortunately, because of our Zoom issues, we've decided not to do that. And so I'm sorry, you guys. I know that you were looking forward to that and had trained and all of those things, but we just don't want to risk taking everybody back out into breakout rooms and then having technical issues like we did last time. A lot of people were getting booted out or couldn't rejoin the meeting. So we're going to do it this way instead. So this is what, here we go. This is what we were going to do in a breakout room. It's a scenario or a story that actually we just made up about a family in East Oakland. So I'm going to read it if you can't, it's kind of small type, but, and then we'll just put some questions out there. And if you want to respond in the chat, that would be great. Okay. Camille and Miguel have two children, ages 1 and 4. They live in an apartment in East Oakland. And Camille has worked part-time in retail and Miguel has a house painting business. Unfortunately, Camille was laid off last spring and Miguel is working, but more sporadically since the pandemic began. They usually send their 4-year-old to the Child Development Center at the elementary school in their neighborhood, and a small family child care provider named Anna cares for their 1-year-old. Their 4-year-old now attends pre-kindergarten with his OUSD teacher, Ms. Johnson. Camille has found some limited work at a restaurant, and Anna provides care for both children when needed. Well, a couple of months ago, Miguel was diagnosed with COVID-19 and was unable to work for over 2 weeks. Camille also had COVID-19, but was not as sick. Camille disclosed to both Ms. Johnson and Anna that because of their lost income, they are now behind on their rent and are worried about being evicted. They also have been struggling to pay bills, and sometimes Camille and Miguel are going hungry in order to ensure that their children can eat.
Camille confided that she was very stressed and overwhelmed. Both Anna and Ms. Johnson really want to help this family. So I think this is a story that might resonate with some of you and working with families on the day-to-day basis. And we know that because childcare providers and teachers are trusted resources and friends in the community, that often people come to them when they are struggling. So if you would like to put in the chat the answers to some of the questions, the first one is, if you were Ms. Johnson or Anna, what would be your first steps in helping the family? And how would you help them prioritize their needs? And if so, how? So why don't we see if you guys have some ideas? I think we can also, I think it would be okay if anybody has some ideas to just, shout them out here too. We can unmute them. Anybody want to raise their hand? Put it in the chat. That's great. Absolutely. Prioritize by asking the family, right? We really need to always just start where they want to start. And I think all of you know that intuitively. Anybody have any other thoughts? I actually can't see the hand raise function.
I'm checking, Paige.
Okay, great, thanks.
There's another comment in the chat.
Yeah, oh yeah, be there for them to vent. I mean, sometimes I think it's right, you guys all know this too. Sometimes families aren't maybe, asking for help directly, but they just want to be there and have somebody be there for them and listen to them. I think that's a really important point. We don't always have to help them find services, but be just a shoulder. And refer them to First Five, great. OUSD meal delivery or grab and go meals is a really great and wonderful resource over the pandemic. I think a lot of people have been using that. And the food bank, everybody has seen the photos. I actually volunteer at our local food bank, and the need has been just, I think in some cases, tenfold what it was. And I think it's really great that somebody pointed out 211. It's a really great resource in the community. It's a good first place to start a lot of the time too, especially for things like food and housing. Oh yeah, we've got to refer them to Room to Bloom in East Oakland for sure. That's their neighborhood, and Tribe as well. It's great. These are great suggestions, and it sounds like people, these are things that were mentioned today as well. Yeah, and it's right. We had another chat in here about building that trusted relationship. And I think all of you do that with the families that you serve. And that's why they come to you when they're in need. Keep Oakland housed. That's great for rent assistance. There's been a lot of emphasis and funding that has gone into helping people stay in their homes during the pandemic, and getting to those resources through Roots is a great suggestion. Okay, so why don't we move on? You guys have already started to put some of these suggestions into the chat. You have to make sure that you're connecting people to resources, and also resources that have been successful in the past. I think we all know that when we refer families, we want to make sure that if they call, someone's going to pick up. If they go over there, less so these days, but making sure that there's actually a connection, there's somebody who's going to call them back. And that's why it's great to build relationships with the people who are here today presenting, and making sure that that the family will get the services that they need. So does anybody, you guys feel, I'm going to move on to the next question, but because I think it's an important one. But if you want to just put more concrete resources in the chat like you've been doing, that's great. As a reminder, we're actually going to save the chat, and we're going to be taking all the resources that you mentioned here, and we're going to be putting it in a useful resources document that we have that's going to go out later today. So any other organizations, even if they were not here today, please share them, places that you've referred families and it's been successful. So I think this is a really important question too. We all know that resources are limited. So what is the best way to handle it when you've tried your best to help a family, but they're still in need? I think we've all been there. Does anybody have any suggestions about how to handle that and how to continue helping a family, but also know there are limitations. Anybody have any thoughts about that? And I think it's particularly hard for teachers because you're a teacher first, and that's, at a childcare provider first. And sometimes it's tough. Oh, we still have, yeah, that's great. Somebody put a link in for the Keep Oakland Housed and PG&E Care program for electricity bills. Yeah, so if anybody has thoughts about how to handle it with families when, for whatever reason, they're still struggling, it's tough. And I think it's just important for us all to know that we try our best and try to be a helping hand to folks, but sometimes it doesn't always work out, and that's okay as long as we're trying, and to keep trying. And I think most importantly, as you guys put in the chat in the beginning, continuing to be a trusted resource, to be just a person that the families feel comfortable going to is really, your first job. So, and I think this last one too is a similar question. It's been a really tough year for everyone. Many of us have had similar struggles to the families that we serve, right? So it would be great to end this if people can just add into the chat some things that have helped them stay positive and also continue to be a support to families. So what are some of the things that you do as a childcare provider, as a teacher, to take care of yourself and your family too? So maybe if you guys can just think about that and put that in the chat as we move on, that would be great. So I think I'll hand it back to either Kim or Carla. I'm sorry, I don't know who is next up to facilitate.
I think it's Kim.
Okay, Kim.
Yeah, I'm unmuting myself.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us.
Yeah, so, thank you so much for all of your patience and grace here, as we all are challenged with technology from time to time. And so thanks for participating, and sorry we weren't able to go into our breakout rooms, but we do have some more raffle prizes, so hopefully that will compensate. Priya, do you want to announce the next set of raffle prizes?
Sure, I'm very happy to, and just want to reiterate, we know and we appreciate the having time for you all to connect with each other, and we will have an announcement coming up about other ways to do that after the symposium. But for this part, I'm happy to announce our next raffle prize winners: Devella Steptoe Gray, Marva Lyons, Elena Albino, Maria Almanza Medina, and Etelvina Lopez. And again, we will reach out to you all and via email and figure out a way to get these wonderful raffle prizes to you. Appreciate each and every one of you. And I will turn it back to Annette, actually, for an announcement, who is going to talk about the Let's Talk Early Learning sessions.
Okay, thank you so much. I was having problems unmuting. Thank you everyone for coming today. I just want to invite you to a affinity space, a safe space that we have provided for educators to just kind of have a space to share resources, to share your thoughts and ideas about how we are showing up in our space. And it's an informal a space where if there's some issues that you might be having, we could share. Is again an affinity space where it's a space where that information won't be shared out, but that we can support each other and as educators, and just give resources that will help make our job easy, not hard. And so it's a really good space. We always enjoy having the people that come into the space, sharing their information, sharing their problems that they might be having, and in hopes that we could support them in whatever problems that they're having with, may it be Zoom, may it be maybe with families, you know, giving ideas. So join us on Wednesday, March the 17th from 6 to 7. Bring your ideas, share your information, and we'll see you there.
Thank you, Annette. Thank you so much. And the link to that March 17th event will be in an email that's sent out to you later today. So don't forget to register. Well, you don't need to register, but just make sure you save the link for that day and join them. So we are coming to the close. It's 11:55, and I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. We know there are lots of things you could have been doing on a Saturday, and you chose to be here. So we really, really appreciate you being here. Be sure to, we want to see you at future events. We have one more segment of this series. So check your email later today. And in that email, we're going to have a post-meeting evaluation. It really is important for you to fill that out because we do listen to you. And that is the reason why we had this subject matter for this session, is because that's what you told us you wanted to talk about. So please let us know. We do take that into consideration. We will be providing a professional development certificate for those who have participated today. And as has been mentioned throughout the day, we are going to send you a resource sheet. Well, it has many pages because I've seen it already. It's probably about 10 pages long now, with links to websites, the videos, all the different resources that have been talked about by the organizations that were here today. And we also, a special note, we have a list of organizations that are responding to the horrible and recent violent attacks against our Asian community members. So look for that. And for example, there is a group in there that connects volunteer chaperones with seniors in Chinatown. So take a look at that resource and pass it along to your community members. The meeting recording and the question and answer links will be sent out in a few days. I want to special thank and shout out to all of our interpreters, speakers, facilitators, the staff, the planning team, and also to the people that make this possible, Rainin Foundation and the Packard Foundation, for their continued support of the early care space and you as educators to our littlest and youngest learners. So I want to wish you a wonderful day. Stay safe, be healthy, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.